All right, in Mod 44, we're now going to take a look at our health and our happiness. I already shared with you a video that you guys should have watched last week on happiness. So we're going to head back that direction after stress and illness. Um, so how does it look? We've already talked about how today um, teenagers are more stressed than any time in our history. Um, there are a lot more resources out there for people today than ever before as well. Uh, we talked about illnesses before, of how we think more pessimistically will more likely have illnesses. Those who are more optimistic are going to live longer, and so on. How we look at things pessimistically or optimistically definitely affects our stress levels and our overall health as we move forward. All right. So, what are those specific impacts on our health? Well, pessimists expected things to go badly. When bad things happen, uh, it is the Monday morning quarterback. It is, I knew it all along. Where optimists are uh, think they're going to be in more control, they're going to cope better to stressful events, and they're going to enjoy better health because of that. And we've talked a little bit about that before. How does social support affect our health and stress? How do support factors impact our stress and health? Feeling liked and encouraged, intimate friends and family promotes both happiness and health. This goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that our self esteem relies on the lower level tiered belongingness and affiliations. And those definitely help us as we move forward. Uh, Research uh, indicates that support factors allow people to feel less likely to die early if they have close relationships. We've already talked about how isolation is bad, but social isolation um, leads to risk of death and equivalent to smoking. So think about that. You may not smoke, but if you're isolated, you are going to die early, just like if you were smoking. How many of you have pets? How do pets affect our health? Having a pet may increase the odds of our survival after a heart attack. People who are depressed, or people with AIDS, lower blood pressure, etc. We all do better when they have that affection from their pet. So, how can we reduce stress? Well, first of all, we have to talk about reducing stressful thoughts and negative thinking and self-fulfilling, self-defeating um, thought processes. We need to be more optimistic. We have to build social supports. That means if we're more isolated, we need to engage in more relationships. Uh, Having more control of our experiences creates less stress, obviously improving our health. Um, we just need sometimes just be able to manage our stress is important. We do know that when we are exercising, we're relaxing, meditation, spirituality plays a significant role in our ability to manage stress at all. Why is that? Because people with spirituality tend to have hope that things will get better. And again, that gets back to optimism. Okay. Aerobic exercises improves our quality of life, gives us more energy, better moods, and obviously gives us better relationships as we, again, engage with other people. The better we feel about ourselves, the more likely we're going to put ourselves out into those relationships. Some of the things that we've talked about of how exercise affects us. We go back to motivation. Exercise increases our arousal, thus counteracting any kind of depression and those low arousing states. It allows our muscles to relax and have sounder sleeps. Um, those are all positive things that come through aerobic exercises. Let's turn our attention now to meditation and relaxation. Right. Other than exercising, meditation and relaxation um, is an asset to reducing our stress. Studies indicate that relaxation can help alleviate headaches, for example, hypertension, anxiety, insomnia. So you can imagine if you engage in exercise, but also now engage in relaxation methods or meditation, how much better way of life that you're going to have. All right, we talked a little bit about faith as a factor as well, but religiously active people tend to live longer than those who are not religiously active. Um, this is what we refer to as the faith factor, um, and how that helps. And we can go back to uh, what we talked about before, when, Viktor Frankl's theory that people who had hope and faith were able to manage and survive the concentration camps. So let's look at some predictors of life here as I fast forward here. Oh, here we go. What are some predictors of a longer life? Predictors of long life: don't smoke, exercise, and regular religious attendance. And now this is interesting, sociologically speaking, is we have seen a decline in religious attendance in our country and religious affiliation. And maybe that goes to the fact that we are much more angry and pessimistic in our society as well. But these are some of the predictors of living a longer life. Researchers point out healthy behavior, social support, and positive emotions are three possible explanations for religiosity longevity correlation. Another thing that we want to take a look at is happiness. And happy people perceive the world as safer, more confident and decisive, and cooperate more easily with other people. They live healthier and more energized and satisfied with their lives as well. Go back and, yeah, okay, let's go here. One of the things with an interesting concept here is the feel good, do good phenomenon. All right. That when we feel good, we're more likely to do good. What this is that we're more likely to give service to other people, to help out when those who are in need, volunteer time, do good deeds, etc. when we feel good. And that's why they call it the feel good, do good, because we feel good about ourselves and then we act upon those good feelings. Um, so doing good promotes good feelings. Now think about that for a second. And you think about Christmas time when you receive gifts. Do we actually feel better when we receive gifts or when we give gifts and see how that affects and makes other people happy? I would venture to say that we feel better when we are actually serving people. And that's why service is such a good thing. It promotes good feelings. This leads to what is called positive psychology. This is a new and modern perspective about psychology that studies humans flourishing and the goals of discovering and promoting our strengths and our virtues that help us thrive in our society. So when we think about that, let's talk about our well-being. What is well-being? It's our perception of happiness and satisfaction with our life. There's that subjective well-being, along with it measures objective well-being, physical and economic indicators that evaluate a person's quality of life. So this is an interesting. This gets into more of the humanistic perspective of psychology. And again, Abraham Maslow touched upon this about being our best selves. Uh, so positive psychology is a new one that is really hitting psychology today, and I would venture to say is a very good perspective as we move forward. So let's kind of talk about a concept here called relative deprivation. Um, Relative deprivation is a perception that one is worse off relative to those whom they compare themselves. And I've talked about this before as we look at ourselves through the eyes of other people. We're always comparing ourselves with others, and we're never going to be happy with this perspective because we view ourselves negatively to their lives. And so when we do that, we experience what is called relative deprivation. So let's look at what we consider to be happy people. These are people who have a high self esteem, they're optimistic, outgoing, agreeable, they're involved in positive, lasting relationships. Because they're physically active, they're considered to be physically attractive. They're typically skillful at their work, but also they enjoy their leisure time. They're active in their faith and they sleep well. All these things we talked about before that leads to our happiness and overall well-being. So I hope you can strive on this particular slide that you strive to do these things if you really want to be happy.